Hi everyone, welcome back to Growing Up in Scientology. This is a live stream that I did with my friend Nora Crest recently in the Supporters of Leah Remini Facebook group. We've been doing a lot of these in that group. This one I did with Nora was actually our first attempt, so we had some technical difficulties. I'm going to do my best to edit around those, but I won't be able to edit around all of them. Please forgive me for that. If you want to check out that group, please do. Again, it's Supporters of Leah Remini. And if you're not interested in Facebook groups, I will be taking those live streams and putting them up on this channel so that everyone can see them. So more about Nora. Nora has been a friend of mine for over 20 years. Nora is a former Sea Org member. Nora was a producer on season 2 of Leah Remini, Scientology and the Aftermath. Her personal story of growing up in Scientology, working in the Sea Org. She worked at the Celebrity Center in Hollywood for many years. She was on Scientology, on the RPF of the Sea organization. It's like the Sea organization's gulag, the rehabilitation, reconditioning camp would be an accurate description. Anyway, there's a lot to Nora's story. I'm going to link to Nora's social media profiles. Nora has a YouTube channel. I know Nora has a podcast. I think Nora might have a blog, but all of her, I'll put links to her online presence in the description of this video. So I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I enjoyed talking to her. Here you go. Nora!
What?
This is so cool.
What's happening?
So cool. What's up?
What's up?
You know what most people probably don't know is that me and Nora have known each other since like 1994.
Yes.
1995. When did you get the flag?
December 95, November 95, just around what do you call it? Thanksgiving, just after Thanksgiving or just before Thanksgiving.
Nice. And then we were basically inseparable until May 15th,
Yeah,
May 16th.
that's right. Well, don't forget we started running, the Outer training program. Remember,
That's right.
because we were like the first graduates, and then we're like training all these people. Like somehow we're now experts on like training people.
It was awesome. Okay, now there was the other part about the minors. You might not have been a minor at that time, though, were you?
No, I was 18. I was 19. So I was.
You were 19. I was 15.
Yeah.
And there was about 100 minors that were on the program at that time.
Oh God.
And if you remember, Kylie Rose Pierce was made the minor IC, and I was like in love with Kylie.
Sandra D.
And I was the deputy minor IC, and
Right.
we would all go home and do close order drilling. We would do marching. Do you know how fucking much that would freak people out to see if there was any video of us all doing close order marching?
Did I find a video somewhere of that? Yeah, we used to do on the EPF and stuff. Yeah.
Did you guys do marching on your EPF? We didn't do that on my EPF.
We did marching. It's surprising at Celebrity Center that you're like cleaning hotel rooms, so people made fun of us like you guys didn't do a real EPF because we cleaned hotel rooms. But I could tell you horror stories from cleaning those hotel rooms. But yeah, but yeah, we did the close order drilling and stuff like that. That's the only time we really did it.
It's one of those things where you go. That's just one of those things where at that time didn't seem weird at all.
No, because we're the Sea Org. We're like the space navy of Scientology.
Yeah, it didn't seem fucking weird.
No.
One of the things I've repeated over and over again is I think it's helpful for the non-Scientology, watching public to know that Sea Org members really do consider themselves and think about themselves in a military-like fashion. It's not this thievy-weedy, foo-foo, let's save the world shit. No one gives a fuck about saving the world. I understand that clearing the planet is saving the world.
Right.
But it's very mechanical.
We're there to get ethics in on the planet. We're there to get ethics in on the planet so the tech can go in. That's the purpose of the Sea Org, not actually delivering the tech to the planet. It's getting the planet clear of all of the assholes, and then the tech can go in. Like we're the ethics officers of the planet. Basically.
That's right. It's like this dual personality. Yeah. Where, just like you said, the stated purpose of the Sea Org is to put in ethics on the planet. And that's why I see that contributes to that persona of we're badass motherfuckers and we don't take any shit from nobody. But at the same time, Nora, you also have the Sea Org is the only ones that can deliver the OT levels. So it's weird.
Right.
It's weird that the putting in ethics on the planet was distilled as like the senior purpose of the Sea Org. It never said the purpose of the Sea Org is to clear the planet.
No, the purpose of the Sea Org is to get an ethics on the planet. That's the purpose. So that the planet can get cleared. I mean, because if you think about it, all of the other things that are happening are supposed to be clearing the planet. Like, and ironically, I know David Miscavige took credit for this at an event, but it was my idea that I wrote up to RTC. I just wanted to say that. One time it was a Thursday and we needed more completions. So of course it was like, what course can you do in 5 hours? And so I was digging through check sheets and I found the group auditor course, which nobody was delivering at the time. And so I sat down and I did the course. I think it took me 2 days or whatever to do the course because it has all these lectures that are nowhere else, not on the BC, not on the Class 8, not anywhere else, these lectures. And in these lectures, he says that group auditing is the key to planetary clearing, because his idea was that you get all these group auditors trained and then they start doing it just like everywhere, at stadiums for football games, at bar mitzvahs, in the grocery store, wherever you are, you're just group auditing all these people. And it's the key to doing that. So I wrote this huge report up to RTC with my great big idea about how we had to get all these group auditors doing stuff because it was the most important thing. Unfortunately for me, like 5 months later, I think I ended up on the RPF. And then the first event I see is Dave Miscavige taking credit for, we've just uncovered this, unused technology and it's going to clear the planet. And then they did the whole thing where everybody was doing the group auditor course and all this bullshit. And I was like, thanks for that. You're welcome. Like, but it's like stupid ideas like that. I think all of those things, like, everything was the key to planetary clearing. Word clearing was the key to planetary clearing. Perfect auditors is the key to planetary clearing. Group audit, no matter what it was, it's the key to planetary clearing. And that's sort of how, like, a lot of people approach Scientology. Whatever they're currently doing is the thing that handled everything in their life. Whether it was like they just finished objectives, it handled all this shit in their life, and then the next thing they finished OG7 and handled all this shit. It's like, but didn't you handle that same shit when you did the objectives? Like, it sounds like the exact same thing. No, it's totally different. So it's just one big circle jerk. Yes. Oh,
yeah, totally. And then it gets even funnier. Like,
my mom just handed me a note for the live watchers here because she's a Class 8 and she wants it to be correct. She said it's getting ethics in on the planet and preserving the tech. Okay, so that's from my mom. Let's say hi, Mom.
Hi.
Come on, camera,
It's in
Kathy.
the Guardian's office, and we knew what's up. Okay, bye.
You want to hear some crazy stories about the 70s? You gotta get my mom on the live video.
Preserving the tech. But that's funny because preserving the tech is not the same thing as delivering it, unless it's preserving the integrity of it, preserving the correct application, or just getting a KSW on the planet.
Yeah. Well, you have to give credit to the Sea Org for preserving the tech, because I think they've accomplished that with their underground bunkers that are all around the world with the titanium plates, and my favorite is like the Victrola that they have that are records that are made out of platinum that is like a hand crank, and you can like hand crank and play. This is for like post-apocalyptic people.
I remember.
Do you remember that? One of the things I have to say, if Scientology, total pipe dream, ever becomes illegal, all of that shit has to be dug up and destroyed, because you don't want archaeologists 100,000 years from now digging that shit up and deciding that this is what all Earthlings believed because it's the only shit that's preserved. Like, that's fucked up.
When our civilization gets wiped out and then in 50,000 years there's another civilization, the new archaeologists will be digging around and they'll be like, what are these fucking dinosaur bones? What's this fucking glass and nickel CD from this L. Ron Hubbard man?
Yeah, exactly. But it'll be in a whole bunker. It'll be completely preserved. And then somebody will get the idea that L. Ron Hubbard like ran the planet with the Sea Organization or some shit.
So I think what it was is the titanium capsules. I think it's etched on steel plates.
I think it's platinum. I'm going to go with platinum.
Is it platinum?
I think it's platinum because remember people were donating like hundreds of thousands of dollars for the preservation of the tech thing.
And so how about this, Nora, though? How about this? How about the millions and millions of dollars that were spent etching every one of Hubbard's words onto these steel plates and then Miscavige reissues all the books. And
you
it
know
all
they have
has
to
to
redo
be
that.
done over again.
They don't give a fuck. They don't
Right.
care. They're just like, good, more money. Now we need more money. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
But
I want to be that person.
The questions, if you're looking at your phone, well, I guess what I'm seeing on the phone is a lot of people joining. I'm not seeing a ton of questions. Before my phone dies, maybe we can get a couple of questions. Is there a number that actually left? Is there a number that actually left? Okay, let's just talk about the concept of people leaving Scientology. It occurred to me the other day that the number I've been using in my head for how many people are probably in Scientology is the same number I've been using for the last 3, 4, or 5 years. My number doesn't tend to change. What's that? Well, that's
Right.
well, both. So in both, I know that both you and I, our experience, you see people leaving the Sea Org. Okay, let's take you at CC. How often would you say people actually left? Weekly?
No, it tended to be less at CC. I would say on average, maybe once every 2 or 3 months. But I remember when I was getting recruited in the 90s and even the late 80s, I was told, and I don't know why they were saying this because they somehow thought it was like a great statistic, that there was 100-to-1 ratio of like 100 XSO for every SO member in the LA area. Like, because most of the XSO people just get sucked back into the church, just doing courses or volunteering or FSMing or something like that. So they never really left. When people like leaving, that was very few and far between. Somebody that actually just left and they weren't like gone from Scientology altogether.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often.
No, but when it did, it was very dramatic. It was always like, crazy example was the guy who, when we got home from, when we fired home from Flag after the Golden Age of Tech, all of a sudden we started getting these bomb threats at CC. And so everybody's evacuated and they had the bomb dogs come from the LAPD and all this stuff, and happened like 4 or 5 times. And then it turned out to be like the calls coming from inside the house. The LAPD finally traced it and was like, this guy who had been on training, who got sent back because he wasn't qualified, and then he got posted in the manor as like the steward for the mess hall. He got sucked into security because there was these bomb threats. So he was feeling really important. And every time the security WQSB was about to be over, magically another bomb threat would come in. And so he had to stay in Castle where all the calls and everything came in. So he was monitoring his own call, the bomb threat. And so when that got found out, he took off to Arizona, and security followed him there. And then he like threatened the security chief with a shotgun and was like, get the fuck out of my apartment. I'm going to murder you if you don't get out of here. And then they just sort of like never did anything with that. I don't even think he got declared. I think they just sort of pretended he was never in the Sea Org and just let him move on. But, I heard of other people like blowing and leaving, and then all of a sudden they're like evangelical Christians. And I was like, okay. And of course there's always the tale of, the girl who leaves and she's on the stripper pole, and that's what's going to happen to you if you leave, is you're going to become a stripper.
Yeah. You're stripping, or you're hooking, or you're flipping burgers at McDonald's.
Or you're a druggie. Yeah. What is this question? Ultimately, do you think former Sea Org members will have an impact on the church's demise? It seems like the public members are coming forward about the financial abuses, but I can't see the rest of that question. Ultimately, do we think that? Yes, because look at all the people on the show. These are all people who are mostly a lot of former Sea Org members and a lot of former public members. People get, I think, hit by Scientology in different ways. When you're a Sea Org member, it's much more the mental and sometimes physical things that happen. And as a public, the main way they have to manipulate you is your money and or your family. So for a lot of public, like Mary Kahn is an example, they manipulated her with her children and with her money, and so they do that a lot. If you're a public person and your child is in the Sea Org, you can be threatened with, you're never going to see your kid again, and they're going to disconnect from you and all this other kind of stuff. And that happens reversely to Sea Org members. When you're looking like you're, on the short end of the stick, they will tell you your whole family is going to disconnect from you and you're going to get declared. So that's another way you stay in. So the more people that are speaking out, which is becoming more and more, I think, every day, the better, because it's everybody's singing the same song essentially, which is a sad song. But the good news is that we're on the other side, me and Aaron and everybody else who's on the show.
Yeah. So Nora, what do you say when people ask you or talk about the subject of taking down Scientology or shutting down Scientology, or like do you think that's possible? Like what does that mean, and is it possible?
This is my plan, and I would say if anybody wants to execute this, anybody from the government is listening, go for it, because it would have to be honestly from a governmental point of view. And the only way I see it happening is similar to what happened in the 70s, where they did simultaneous raids of Scientology churches to gather the evidence. It would happen in Operation Snow White and stuff like that. And honestly, what would have to happen is, especially in Los Angeles, which won't happen because they, pay so much money to the LAPD and the fire department. But if you had the FBI show up with the fire department and the police department, and they literally just went in and inspected the rooms, they would find hundreds of code violations, as you and I both know in the birthing, how they have people set up, too many bunks, not enough space for the people they have in a room and things like that. And what I would do, and why I would have the FBI and ICE and other agencies there, is you just line people up and you say, I want to see your identification. And the staff members themselves would have to produce either their passport or their driver's license. And as we know, a lot of the people that are here on R1 visa, those visas have been expired for years. So those people would just be rounded up, be like, good, you're going back to your country, bye-bye. All of the minors would be rounded up. Where are your parents? If their parents had somehow signed over custody, you could go through that whole rigmarole, but those people would be like, nope, you're a minor, you're out. And everybody else that would be left would be the super old people who have been there for 20 plus years, who have no family, nothing else to go to. And hopefully someone would be there to help them sign up for Medicaid and other things that they need to get actual care and something. And there'd probably be a few hundred other people left over that were held in positions of power that could then be prosecuted for holding people's passports, human trafficking kind of things, and then you could really sort it out. But it's something that would have to happen simultaneously at every Scientology organization, at least in the United States simultaneously, which, I don't even know what that would take to coordinate that. Other than that happening, unless some gigantic, I don't know why all of these things aren't considered scandal, but unless some gigantic, Tom Cruise has a massive falling out and just spills the beans on all the shit that he was a part of at Gold and shit, I don't see anything else happening like that. I mean, I would love to see, obviously, what I'm dreaming about happen and have all these people, as you've discussed earlier, like against their will. It's very hard, because
Okay, Nora's coming back. We were talking about what it means to shut down Scientology, whether such a thing is possible.
Right.
And just finish up what you were saying there, because you got cut off midstream.
Okay, basically, it'd have to be a coordinated effort with the fire, police, FBI, and ICE, where they would literally have to go, straight into all of the bases in the United States simultaneously. And they would literally, my idea is they just get all of the people to come outside. Everybody come outside. The fire department goes in and starts seeing all of the code violations in all the bedrooms because of how fucked up that is. And then they get each person to present their ID, which would be ideal for the people in there since most of their IDs have been confiscated anyway. So they get their passports back, they get all things. You would see how many people's R1 visas are expired. They would get sent back to the countries they're from. And the minors would be unearthed and they could get put back together with their families, and maybe some of those families brought up on, child endangerment charges, which would be an eye-opener for them to, start actually taking care of their children. And then, the rest of the people that are going to be left are going to be the super old people that are almost, being thrown away anyway. And maybe a few hundred other people who then could be prosecuted on, human trafficking and other things like that. And, boom, it's done. The buildings are closed because we know how shitty they're made. And especially PAC. I mean, CC is a historical building that's been pretty well kept up, but there's a lot of bullshit in there too. A lot of weird, look the other way kind of things. And that is because, and I know people are like, that's not true. Look at all the Celebrity Center events. They have firefighters, they have police officers there. That's why people always had said to me, like, well, when you ran away, why didn't you just go like to the LAPD? I'm like, because they would have just driven me back to CC. Like, that's what would have happened. So you have to somehow get higher up than that. It would have to be the FBI. It would have to be the INS, ICE, some sort of like other organization that would have authority over all of that kind of stuff. And basically it would just be sort of like setting people free. As far as the money aspect goes, because the accounts are offshore and all this other stuff, because that's the other thing that I would love to see happen, is just like somehow all that IAS money just refunded back to people, and you know, that kind of stuff. But I don't know that that's ever going to happen, because as far as I know, that money is just poof, you know. I mean, I think at this point, Dave must feel like Scrooge McDuck into the piles of money that the church has accumulated. You know, I don't know what they do with it.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
You know.
The amount of the layers of high-priced lawyers and financial advisors who've gotten involved in the whole corporate structure of the church and offshore accounts. You know, where like even the IAS is actually incorporated on the Free Winds, which is a ship in international waters.
Exactly. That actually it's the Dutch flag or whatever that they fly. They're not even an American ship.
Dutch Antilles or something.
Yeah.
Wow. When people ask me about what's it going to take to bring down Scientology, my usual answer is it's already happening. Like, what do you mean? Like, because I also feel that even if I said, you know, this is a battle of public, what's the word that I use? Informed consent. What we are doing is telling the world the real story of Scientology. What does Scientology really believe? How does Scientology really behave? What is it really like in the Sea Org? And if after all that is said and done, some schmuck wants to be like, sounds good to me, I want to sign up, I'll be like, go for it, dude. Fucking go for it. It's Darwinism. You know? But because informed consent, the public conversation is bringing down Scientology. The internet is bringing down Scientology. You can measure influence of an organization, I guess, either by its dollars or its members. I think you truly measure it by its members. Like, you could have one guy who's, you know, money can only get you so far when you're dealing with populist culture. Your members and how many of them there are and where they're placed and who their friends are, I think is a better measurement of the influence of an organization. And by that measure, Scientology's influence has been waning for a long time, and it's only it's waning. The acceleration of that disintegration is very real. You know, Scientology is a punchline. Scientology is a joke. And I think without a doubt more people are leaving Scientology than are joining Scientology. I say the only people joining Scientology are reporters and bloggers who are doing a deep undercover research. I mean, who the fuck is joining Scientology?
That's true.
It's
well, right now you have to don't forget they've gotten into bed now with the Nation of Islam, and that's not a joke. That's something that the FBI should actually take very seriously, because the Nation of Islam is still considered in some respect a terrorist organization in this country because of the things that they've done. This is because of their past, not because of their current things that are going on. But if you don't believe that the Nation of Islam is 100% in bed with Scientology, just Google Elijah Muhammad and L. Ron Hubbard and watch him praise L. Ron Hubbard for hours and hours on video on YouTube. And he encourages all of his members to get trained as auditors, to read Dianetics, to apply Scientology to their life, because it's going to fulfill the prophecy of Allah. And it's like, woo. And that's why, I mean, at Celebrity Center, that's all you see now is Nation of Islam members. And then like the few actual actors and stuff. Like, people want to bring up Elizabeth Moss. I don't think Elizabeth Moss has done a course in 5 years, to be honest. I don't think she's been on lines in a long time. She was a Scientology kid. She did all the stuff she was required to do. She was not as dedicated as Leah was. Let's put it that way. She wasn't on course as much as Leah was, or Jason Begay. Jason Begay was fucking hardcore, man. I trained the shit out of that guy, you know? So there's some celebrities who do the like, oh, I'll show up on Tuesday at 3 because, you know, it's in between my hair appointment and, you know, my set call. And then there's people like, you know, that are like Leah was on course every single day and every spare moment that they had, you know, dedicating it to the church. So I think, you know,
Yeah,
they're losing a grip on a lot of people. They're not using John Travolta for like anything. And Tom Cruise is shut up about it. You know, he's not going to do whatever. And Elizabeth Moss even doesn't talk about it. Neither does Laura Prepon's been in the Celebrity Mag, but she doesn't talk about, hey, guess what? I'm a paid professional lesbian on Orange is the New Black, but I'm also a Scientologist. Like, So,
right.
You know.
Even other guys who, when push comes to shove in an interview, will defend Scientology. Don't fucking do Scientology like Beck. When's the last time Beck was on course?
Never. I never saw. I think I saw him 3 times.
Get
the
the
whole
fuck
5 years
out
I
of
was
here.
at CC. He's another Scientology
but-
kid. He's a Scientology kid who fucking did what they needed to do. And then when the church asked him to say, I'm a Scientologist, he would like blurt it out for people, and that was it.
Right.
You know,
And
I think
Giovanni
he did.
Ribisi?
I think
What about Giovanni?
Vonnie did some stuff, but you know, he was never, again, there's somebody again who was a Scientology kid who, you know, I mean, he was fucking born at the Wilcox. You know, so was Gina.
The Wilcox was the building where the CC staff lived.
Yeah, but you know, the Wilcox now is on the bottom floor is a restaurant, and then there's an actual hotel. Somebody bought it and turned it into a hotel. So other SEERG members, former SEERG members, have gone there and been like, "Can I just see like room 241? Because I just want to see my old dorm," and then totally let them do it.
Wow, the church doesn't own that building anymore?
No, they sold. First of all, the church never.
Did the church ever own that building, or did they just pay rent there?
Celebrity Center owned that building outright. And I will say this about Celebrity Center and Dave Pettit. He's the only CEO on the planet who paid off his debt. And this is the other money-making scam that they do, which is, of course, getting the public to pay all this money for the new building and then for the renos. And then once the building's done and the staff move in, they charge the staff a mortgage, which they then have to pay back this imaginary debt to SEERG reserves, even though the building's been paid for. So Celebrity Center was the same thing. The church had paid it off. The CEO, Dave Pettit, paid off the mortgage in full. He was like squirreling away money. We would eat like beans and rice and shit for weeks because he was squirreling away all this money. And one day he just did this huge lump sum payment to SEERG reserves, and we owned our building, including the Wilcox. And so then because he owned this Wilcox, that's how they bought the Bronson building across the street, and they bought that for cash from the owner. P.S. There was a shit ton of Scientologists living there that they all kicked out so that they could renovate the apartment building and move SEERG members into it. And that's what I was renovating when I was on the RPF. And that was one of the things that started a wave of Scientologists leaving, was that incident where they were literally given like a week notice and like paid very little money to move out. And we're like, we own the building now, bye. It was like, wait, you just bought the building that I live in and I pay all my money to you across the street to go totally free, but you're telling me I have to move out and like fuck off? Like, oh, hell, fuck no, you know? And there was like some lawsuits that were coming up and they had to pay people off. And it was like, oof, it was bad. But Celebrity Center is the only org that I know for sure actually themselves owns all the building, because now they have bought up all the buildings, almost all the buildings in that little on Tamarind and stuff, all the apartment buildings there and stuff. So they pretty much own the block. And no, you know, PAC doesn't own those buildings that they've bought up. And then there's that one guy who won't sell the apartment building next to Kaiser. That one guy who's like always like, nope.
Yeah. He must just be trolling them.
And of course, Kaiser isn't going to move.
A fucking arm and a leg for that property. Right.
Oh, I'm sure they've offered
he's like, no,
$50 million, and he's
going to sublet my rooms to some SPs. So we'll end it here now, though, and let's do a lot more of this. We can, we should test how many people we can get on camera at a time. We should get Claire on here, and we can get Christy on here.
Good.
Anyone who wants to join. This will be fun.
Let's do it.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.